Sydney has a major problem: chronic congestion. During peak times, the city's main motorways are clogged. But the New South Wales government thinks it has the solution to the city's congestion: build another motorway. Starting in Parramatta, in the city's west, the proposed WestConnex Motorway will be a combination of surface road and tunnels. It will travel 30 kilometres, snaking through the inner suburbs of Ashfield, Leichhardt and Camperdown, before heading south through Tempe and Walleye Creek and joining the existing M5 motorway in Bexley.
It's really important for our city that we have a way that we can move around during the week and on weekends. We also need infrastructure to sustain jobs. We need to make sure that there's a level of prosperity in our community, and WestConnex is all about delivering infrastructure that's long overdue.
The New South Wales government describes WestConnex as Australia's biggest transport project. Its aim is to reduce traffic congestion, but a leading traffic expert says the giant motorway project is going to fail. Dr. Michelle Zybots from UTS has an esteemed record at predicting Sydney's traffic flows. In 2002, a year before construction started on Sydney's Cross-City Tunnel, she correctly predicted it would fail to achieve its intended traffic numbers. She says WestConnex is a bad idea.
The main selling point for WestConnex is that it will reduce traffic congestion. But if we look at all of the other motorways, all of the other tollways that have been built in Sydney, we find that they haven't reduced road traffic congestion. And in fact, in many cases, what we find is road traffic congestion is actually worse after some of these motorways have been built.
Sydney has been encircled by a network of motorways. Every single one has been built on the promise that it would relieve congestion. The M5 motorway in the city's south is known as the slowest. The Roads and Maritime Services Department now describes the M5 as suffering congestion and high travel times, exactly what it was built to prevent. The M4 motorway in the city's west has been widened and lengthened numerous times over the years to improve traffic flow, but after each improvement, the motorway became slower. The improvements only induced more traffic to come and use the motorway. During peak times, the M4 is now a sea of cars. According to Dr. Zybots, the speed of a motorway is determined not by the number of lanes it has, but by the speed of the public transport network.
The next train to arrive on platform 19.
In 2005, Sydney introduced a new train timetable that slowed the speed of the rail network in order to keep the trains running on time.
First stop, Redfern, then all stations.
Incredibly, the change in train speed started to have an effect on the city's motorways.
Most people, not everyone, but most people make their trip decisions based on whichever option is quickest. So when the fixed speed of the public transport network rises and some people choose to come off the road network, then road speeds rise to follow that. If you slow down the rail network, which is what we did in Sydney, which was a very unusual thing to do, but when we did that, when we made that decision, we saw road speeds drop as well. It followed the speed of the public transport network.
Stage 1 of the proposed WestConnex motorway will collect these cars from the M4 in the west and channel them here to Sydney's Anzac Bridge. The problem is the Anzac Bridge reached its maximum traffic capacity back in 2002, only 7 years after it opened. Every day during peak times, the massive cable-stayed bridge becomes choked. It simply can't fit any more cars. Dr. Zybots says that WestConnex will make congestion worse when it funnels tens of thousands more vehicles onto this bridge, spreading traffic chaos to other areas.
The success of WestConnex is dependent on whether or not the surrounding road is congested or not. Because once traffic gets onto WestConnex, it's then got to go somewhere as it gets off. And if that distribution network, as we call it, is congested, then the ability of WestConnex to solve congestion is deeply limited, and it's flawed.
Do you think the WestConnex Motorway might actually cause congestion?
I believe that WestConnex is going to provide connections that we've never had in this city, which I think are really exciting in terms of enabling people to get home earlier, to ease congestion, to increase productivity in our city. At the end of the day, Sydney competes in an international environment, and we need infrastructure which keeps our city going.
Gavin Gattenby from the public transport advocacy group Ecotransit says that WestConnex will take funding away from public transport, forcing people out of rail and onto the road.
The business interests who are pushing for WestConnex are trying to lock Sydney into a car-based future for decades to come, and that would be a tragedy for them to get away with that.
In Sydney's inner west, Parramatta Road is the main artery between the city centre and its western suburbs. More than 100 homes and businesses along this corridor will be destroyed to make way for WestConnex tunnel entry and exit points. While the WestConnex motorway will burrow underneath Parramatta Road, the sky space above WestConnex has been earmarked for high-rise development, what the developers call urban revitalisation.
You've got an unholy alliance of business interests coming together at the moment to push WestConnex. The construction companies like Leighton's want a huge ongoing project to make massive profits out of. The tollway companies are faced with a failing business model, and they want to try and inject more traffic into the system in order to rescue their existing investments. And the property developers want to build high-rise all over the inner west, and they're seeing WestConnex as a way of doing this, getting that through.
Two of the biggest promoters of the WestConnex motorway plan were former Premier Nick Greiner and former Sydney Water boss Paul Broad, who pushed the project when they worked for Infrastructure New South Wales. But normally planning for Sydney's transport needs is done here at the Government Transport Department known as Transport for New South Wales. In 2012, Dr. Zybots worked with a panel of experts advising Transport for New South Wales and drawing up its Transport Master Plan for Sydney. She says the experts did not recommend building motorways, but instead recommended a second rail crossing of Sydney Harbour. But Transport for New South Wales and its panel of experts got overridden.
What happened was that was all sort of pushed to the side, and then these motorway plans came in, and they didn't come from the folks within Transport for New South Wales, from what I could see. These new motorway plans and the push for those were coming from people like Nick Greiner and Paul Broad, who hadn't been a part of the process to try and develop the Transport Master Plan.
Stage 1 of WestConnex is designed to bring more cars into Sydney's central business district. It will be funded entirely by government. $1.8 billion will be spent by the New South Wales government, while a further $1.5 billion will come from federal coffers.
If we were to spend a fraction of the cost of WestConnex on some vital public transport projects, we would actually see traffic falling right across Sydney, and we'd get that fall in traffic much cheaper and much quicker than by building WestConnex.
Sydney needs both public transport investments, like what's happening in terms of the North West Rail and South West Rail links and additional light rail and additional bus services. However, our city also needs motorway infrastructure.
Despite the massive amounts of public money going into WestConnex, the New South Wales government has not released the details underpinning its business case, or the detailed traffic modelling needed to justify this motorway.
The other problem that this one has is that it costs an absolute bomb, and the benefits are really minimal. And there's nothing that you can do to really hide that, other than not tell anyone or not give anybody the technical details and justification for the project. And if we get to that point, then I think it'll be up to the community to ask some very serious questions about what the real motivation and drive is for this project.
With the federal government no longer funding public transport, there is no plan B for Sydney if WestConnex causes gridlock. As Sydney plans for its future, it seems the city will have to prepare itself for more congestion ahead.